Hey there guys, what's up? So in this video we are going to start with chapter 6. In this video we are going to start with chapter 6, the name of which is mean variance portfolio theory. Portfolio theory. Great. So does anybody remember what the word portfolio means? Portfolio का मतलब क्या होता है? It is simply multiple assets being held together. A portfolio is nothing but a collection of assets. So if I were to give you an example, if we want to look at an example, let's say we have 3 assets in front of us. And also let's say that in our pocket we have 500 rupees to invest. The wealth that we have to invest is what? 500. तो अभी एक possibility क्या है? Let's say one possibility is what? I end up investing 200 rupees in the first asset, 150 rupees in the second asset, and the remaining 150 in the third asset. So this is one possibility, one portfolio that I can be holding. The first portfolio that I can be holding. Let's say another possibility is what? That we end up investing 75 rupees in the first asset, 125 in the second asset, and the remaining 300 in the third one. So this is the second portfolio, the second possibility for us. Similarly, we'll have a third possibility. We'll also have a fourth possibility and so on. So if you think about it, you have a lot of options to choose from. You have a lot of choices in front of you. So at this moment, it's pretty natural for you to ask yourself, boss, which one is the best portfolio for me? Which one is the most optimal portfolio for me? Right? Which is the most optimal portfolio? And this is the key question. This is the central question that we'll be asking and answering in chapter 6. So this thing is the central question. Finding the optimal portfolio for us. Okay, so let's begin. Now any theory, any model starts where? कोई भी theory या कोई भी model चालू कहाँ से होता है? It starts with its assumptions. So that's what we're going to look at now. We look at the assumptions of the mean variance portfolio theory. Assumptions. All right. Assumption number 1. Now, ये काफी simple assumption है. What it says is that investment decisions are solely based on only two things. कोई भी investment decision है ना, सिर्फ दो ही चीज पर based होगा. Can you guess what they are? Whenever we are analyzing an investment, there are two fundamental things that we look at. पहला क्या होता है कि boss, how much return we are going to earn from this investment? How much return this investment is going to provide us? And the second thing is what? कितना risky है ये investment? How much risk is present in this investment? Now generally speaking, this thing gets quantified. Quantified with the help of expected return, whereas this thing gets quantified with the help of variance of return. Now I think this first one is pretty obvious. The expected return does seem like a reasonable measure of return, right? जितना ज़्यादा expected return उतना अच्छा. But what about the variance of return? Can you think why the variance of return might be a reasonable measure of risk? Why should we quantify risk using variance? सोचो. For example, let's say the variability in return is very high. If the variance in return is high, what does that mean? Well, the returns are very spread out. The returns are dispersed. तो होने को बहुत अच्छा रिटर्न भी हो सकता है, बट होने को बहुत खराब रिटर्न भी हो सकता है. This automatically means that you are very uncertain as to what that return is going to be. You are very uncertain, right? It is very hard for you to predict that return, and hence you consider that investment to be risky. So the point is that when the variance is high, The unpredictability is high, which makes your investment risky. Great. So that was assumption number 1. The fact that our investment decisions are solely going to be based on expected return and variance of return. Moving on. Now let's look at assumptions 2 and 3. We'll look at assumptions 2 and 3. Now ये दोनों assumptions का point क्या है ना? These assumptions are useful because they help us select between assets. They help us choose between assets. They help us choose between assets. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So let's say we have two assets in front of us. We have asset A and asset B. Let's say that the expected return on asset A is 8%, whereas on asset B it's only 7%. Whereas the variance of return for both assets is, let's say, I don't know, 1.5% square. That is the variance for both assets. तो ये सब given information है. My question to you is pretty simple. Which of these two assets will you prefer? Would you go with asset A or would you go with asset B? I think the answer here is pretty simple. Everybody is going to prefer asset A and not asset B. What's the reason behind that? Well, both the assets have the same variability of return. That essentially means that they have the same level of risk. But clearly, asset A is offering a higher return than asset B. The return on asset A is greater than the return on asset B. So what we are seeing here is that for the same level of risk, asset A is giving us higher returns, and so naturally we'll prefer asset A. Okay. If I want to generalize this idea a little, can I say that for a given level of risk, we want to maximize our returns. For a given level of variability, we would like to maximize our expected returns. The higher the return, the better, right? पैसा ही पैसा होगा. And this is what is assumption 2. So let's quickly look at the third assumption also. Okay. So again, I'm just going to use a simple example. Let's say we have again two assets in front of us, assets C and asset D. Let's say that the expected return on both assets is 8%, but the variance of return on asset C is let's say 2% square, whereas in asset D it's only 1% square. So again, this is given information, and my question to you is pretty simple, same as before. Which one of these two assets will you prefer? Would you go with asset C or would you go with asset D? Well, now I think everybody is going to go with asset D, right? They'll choose asset D over asset C. And what's the reason? Well, clearly both assets are offering the same returns. दोनों का expected return तो same है, but asset D is offering a lower risk. You'll have to take a lower risk to get the same level of return in asset D. So naturally you will end up preferring that. And again, if I want to generalize this thought process, can I say that for a given level of return, we want to minimize our risk. For a given level of expectation, we would like to minimize our variance of return. जितना कम risk, उतना better, right?
मेरे को इस बार रिस्क लेने का ही नहीं है.
And this thing is what the third assumption is. So now we clearly have both the assumptions in front of us. Assumption 2 क्या बोलता है कि boss, for a given level of risk, we want to maximize our return, whereas assumption 3 is telling us that for a given level of return, we want to minimize our risk. And as you can see, They obviously help us choose between assets. All right. So assumptions 2 and 3 actually have a technical name for themselves. इन लोग का ना एक टेक्निकल नाम है. Assumption 2 means that we are looking at people, we are only looking at investors who are non-satiated. It means that we are looking at investors who are non-satiated. Now I realize this sounds like a very fancy word, but इसका meaning काफ़ी simple है. Non-satiated simply means not satisfied. It simply means not satisfied in the sense that the person, he or she always wants more return. The person is not satisfied in the sense that he or she always wants more return, and hence they want to maximize their return. Great. So assumption 2 means that we are only looking at people who are non-satiated, whereas assumption 3 means that we are only looking at people who are risk averse. We are only looking at people who are risk averse. Now again, seems like a very fancy word, but same as before, इसका meaning भी काफ़ी simple है. To be averse to something means to essentially hate it, to be against it. So for example, I am averse to large parts of Bollywood. मुझे नहीं जमता. Yeah. So averse means to hate something. So risk averse means what? To hate risk, to be against it. And hence, that person wants to minimize their risk. Yup. So assumptions 2 and 3 have technical names for them. Actually, these assumptions also have technical definitions. So ये जो दो term है ना, we have specific technical definitions for those terms. But that is the subject matter of chapter 2. That is something that gets covered in chapter 2. So I won't dive into that here. It's not relevant over here. Great. So I have pointed out 3 key assumptions. We have looked at 3 key assumptions, the 3 core assumptions. Now the thing is, there are actually some additional assumptions. We actually have some more assumptions also. But the thing is, they are pretty obvious statements and they are not very essential to understanding the concept. My point being that I do not want to burden you and confuse you by stating all the assumptions together here. So what you can do is just leave some space in your notes. Notes में थोड़ी जगह छोड़ दो. And afterwards, I'll tell you what those additional assumptions are. So you can write them there. Alright. So let's move on. Now before we start with the actual real analysis, let's just establish some notation. So we'll establish some notation. Alright. So let's say W denotes what? Our initial wealth. So W is used to denote the amount of money that we have to invest. Let's say x1, x2, x3, all the way up to xn denotes what? The proportion of our wealth invested in assets 1, 2, 3, all the way up to n respectively. So what does this mean? I'll just give you an example. So let's say our initial wealth W is 1000. Okay. So we have 1000 rupees to invest. And let's say we are looking at 4 assets. So our n is 4. Now in this example, we have x1 equal to 0.1, x2 equal to 0.2, x3 equal to 0.3, and finally x4 equal to 0.4. This simply means that, boss, 10% of our wealth goes in the first asset, 20% of our wealth is invested in the second asset, 30% of it goes in the third asset, and the remaining 40% is being invested in the fourth asset. So these x's simply represent the proportion of our wealth invested in each asset. Great. Let's say that R1, R2, R3, all the way to Rn represents what? This tells us the percentage return that we earn on each asset. For example, let's say R1 can be either minus 3% or plus 5% with probabilities 0.4 and 0.6. So what does this mean? That, boss, on the first asset, there's a 60% chance of us earning 5%, whereas a 40% chance of us actually losing 3%. If I want to give you one more example, let's say R2 is normally distributed with parameters 8% and 2% square. Now what does this mean? That was on the second asset. On our second asset, we expect to earn a return of 8% with a standard deviation of 2%. So I think from this example, it's pretty obvious that these returns Ri's, are random variables. We are not sure what the return on each asset is going to be, so we simply treat it as a random variable. However, these xi's are actually constants. These xi's are constants and they are not random variables. It is up to us to decide what proportion of our wealth should go in each asset. So basically xi's are not random, it is something that we control. Great. So we have established three things by now. We have W, the initial wealth, then we have our xi's, and then finally we also have our ri's. Moving on. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a simple flow chart. Okay? And this flow chart starts with W, our initial wealth. As I mentioned before, x1 represents the proportion invested in the first asset. Now if x1 represents the percentage, my question is, what is the amount invested? What is the amount invested in the first asset? That will simply be W times x1, right? The wealth times the proportion will give us the amount. Similarly, very similarly, the amount invested in asset 2 will be what? The wealth times the proportion in asset 2, and this pattern will continue. This pattern will continue all the way up to asset n. Now we also know that R1 is the percentage return on the first asset. So if R1 is a percentage return, what will be the amount of return? What will be the amount of return on asset 1? Well, if you think about it, that will simply be the amount invested in asset 1 times the percentage return. Okay. So similarly, the amount of return on asset 2 will be what? The amount invested in asset 2 times the percentage return on asset 2. And just as before, this pattern will continue. So if this is the returns, this is the amount of returns that we earn on each asset, what will be our total return? If I want to write out my total return, total amount of return, what will it be? Simply this thing plus this thing plus all the way up to this thing, right? Final question. What will be the percentage return that we earn on this entire portfolio? On our portfolio. Well, how do we find percentage return in general? Percentage return का formula क्या होता है? It is simply the total amount of return over the capital invested. That is what the basic formula is, right? Now what is the amount of return? So I know my amount of return is Wx1 R1 plus Wx2 R2 all the way up to Wxn Rn. Great. And what about the capital invested? Total capital invested कितना है? Well, we simply started off with our initial wealth, right? We simply started off with this W. So my capital investment is just W. And we can easily see that these W's cancel out. All these W's will cancel out and leave us with X1 R1 plus X2 R2 all the way up to plus Xn Rn, which in summation notation can be written as Xi Ri, where I is going from 1 to n. Great. And let's say we are calling this percentage return on our portfolio. We are denoting this percentage return on our portfolio as Rp. So what we have done is that we have just established a new notation. Rp is nothing but the percentage return on our portfolio. And what is the formula for Rp? Alright. So do you remember the very first assumption that we made? Assumption 1 याद है क्या? Investment decisions are solely based on two things, the expected return and the variance of return. So keeping assumption 1 in mind, naturally, we are pretty interested in knowing what the expected return on our portfolio is. We want to know what the expected return on our portfolio is, and we also want to know what the variability in our portfolio is. These two quantities are very important for us. So let's just go ahead and find them. So the expectation of RP would be what? Expectation of RP would be simply expectation of x1 R1 plus x2 R2 all the way up to plus xn Rn. Now if you remember from CS1, we can always distribute the expectation over the sum, right? Expectation of x plus y is simply expectation of x plus the expectation of y. So if we distribute our sum, what do we get? The expectation of the first thing plus the expectation of the second thing, so on till the expectation of the last thing. And now if you remember as I mentioned above, this x1, x2 all the way up to xn are simply constants. It is we who decide what proportion of our wealth should go in each asset. So these xi's are not random, we control them. So since they are constant, we can pull them out of our expectations, and doing that gives us x1 times expectation of R1 plus x2 times the expectation of R2, so on till xn the expectation of Rn. Great. So just to make my equations look nice and pretty, I am going to establish some notation. So let's say we call this expectation of R1 as E1. We denote this expectation of R2 as E2, so on till the expectation of Rn, which will become En. And similarly, the expectation of RP will become EP. So based on this new notation, EP will simply be what? x1 E1 plus x2 E2 all the way up to xn En. And in summation notation, that becomes the sum of xi's ei's, I going from 1 to n. So great, we have found an expression for the expected return on our portfolio, EP. Alright, so let's now look at the variance of return. So if I want, I can just give you the formula for this thing. मतलब मैं तुम लोग को formula दे दूंगा. That will probably take 1 minute of your time and lead to 0% of understanding. So I don't think that's a wise way to proceed. My point being, we'll take a small detour now. एक छोटा सा detour लेंगे. It will end up taking 5 to 7 minutes more of your time, but you'll end up with a better idea of where things come from. Okay, so let's say we want to find the variance of x plus y. I'm pretty sure everybody remembers the formula for this. Variance of x plus y is simply what? Variance of x plus variance of y plus 2 times covariance x and y. My question to you is simple. Is there some high level intuition behind this formula? Is there a way to understand this formula at a very broad and a high level? As it turns out, the variability in x plus y, actually arises from 4 sources. The variability arises from 4 distinct sources. First of all, we have some independent variation in x. x अपने आप में थोड़ा चेंज होता है, and the value for this thing is given by variance of x. Similarly, we have some independent variation in y. y भी अपने आप में थोड़ा चेंज होता है, the value for which thing is given by variance of y. Thirdly, we have some variation in x caused due to changes in y. What we have is some variation in x caused due to changes in y. चेंजेस इन y. तो y के चेंज होने की वजह से x में वेरिएशन आता है. The value for which thing is given by covariance x comma y. And lastly, we also have variation in y caused due to changes in x. You also have variation in y caused due to changes in x. x के चेंज होने से भी y में थोड़ा वेरिएशन आएगा. And the value for this is given by covariance y comma x. So my point being, variability in x plus y is actually arising from 4 distinct sources. So if you want to find the total variability, if we want to look at the total variability in x plus y, how do we find it? Well, we can simply add all of the 4 terms. If we add all terms, we get variance of x plus variance of y plus covariance xy plus covariance yx. And as you might all know, the value of covariance xy is the same as the value of covariance yx, right? Those two terms have the same value, so they simplify to 2 times covariance x comma y. So that was us looking at the variance of x plus y. Now let's try to extend this idea. Let's try to take our intuition a little further. So now what we're going to look at, is variance of x plus y plus z. We started off with the variance of x plus y, and now we are going to look at the variance of x plus y plus z. तो इसका फॉर्मूला क्या आएगा? सोचो. Well, first of all, we'll have independent variation in x, which will be given by variance of x. Similarly, we'll have independent variation of y, given by variance of y. And finally, some independent variation in z, given by variance of z. What next? Well, we can just pick any 2 random variables now. We can just pick a pair of random variables. For example, if we look at x and y, we know there will be some variation in x caused due to changes in y, right? Y के change होने की वजह से थोड़ा x में variation आएगा. And also the other way around, variation in y caused due to changes in x. So that was us looking at x and y. Similarly, we can also look at, let's say, y and z. If we pick up these 2 random variables, we will get covariance yz, and also the other way around, which will be covariance zy. Variation in y caused due to changes in z, and also variation in z caused due to changes in y. And finally, we end up with the last pair. So that is x and z, which will give us covariance xz, and the other way around, which is covariance zx. And if you want, you can simplify this a little further. So we know these 2 terms have the same value, so they become 2 times covariance xy. Again, these 2 terms become 2 times covariance yz, whereas these 2 terms become 2 times covariance xz. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to arrange all of this information in a very nice and a pretty way. Arrange all these terms in a very systematic and a nice way. In particular, I'm going to put all of these terms in a matrix. Let's see what I mean by that. So let's say I make a simple matrix. I'm going to make a simple matrix now. Okay. Now each element in this matrix corresponds to a covariance term. So for example, corresponding to x and y, we'll have what? Covariance x comma y. Similarly, corresponding to, let's say, y and z, we'll have covariance y comma z. So each element is corresponding to a covariance element. What about x and x? That will just give us covariance x comma x, right? And if you remember, that is the exact same thing as the variance of x. Covariance xx can be written as what? The variance of x. Similarly, if we look at y and y, that is nothing but covariance yy, which simplifies to variance of y. Using the similar logic, we can fill the rest of the matrix. So we'll have variance of z over here. We'll have covariance xz, covariance yx, covariance zx, and finally covariance zy. The thing that I actually want you to notice, the thing that I want you to focus on is that all these elements, all the elements over here correspond to the elements in the matrix, right? All the elements over there are matching with the elements in the matrix. So my point being, if we simply add all of the elements in the matrix, if we just add all the elements, we will end up with variance of x plus y plus z. This will give us variance of x plus y plus z. Seems neat, right? And as you might guess, such a matrix is something that we call a covariance matrix. We call it a covariance matrix naturally because every term corresponds to a covariance term. Alright, so now you might be wondering that, boss, this covariance matrix seems like a clever representation, but how does this actually help me? How does this thing actually add value? And in order to answer that question, we look at our final point. Initially, we looked at the variance of x plus y. Then we moved on to the variance of x plus y plus z. And now finally, we are looking at the variance of x1 plus x2 plus x3 all the way up to xn. So in general, we are looking at the variance of the sum of n random variables. इसको कैसे ढूंढेंगे? Now this is where the covariance matrix comes to our rescue. So I'm just going to quickly make a matrix. We have a matrix over here. x1, x2, xi all the way up to xn, and similarly x1, x2 all the way up to xj, xn. Now since this thing is a covariance matrix, we know that each element corresponds to a covariance term. So for example, corresponding to x1, x2, we'll have what? We'll have covariance of x1, x2. Similarly, corresponding to x1 and xn, क्या होगा? Covariance x1, xn. What about x2, x2? Well, that will simply give us covariance x2, x2, right? Now you all know that this thing is the same as variance of x2. So if you want, you can also write variance of x2 over here. मैं फिलहाल अभी वो नहीं लिख रहा हूँ. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so using the same logic, we can easily fill in the entire matrix. So we will have covariance x1, x1. We'll have covariance xn, xn. We also have covariance xn, x1, and so on. Great. And in general, corresponding to xi and xj, we'll have what? Corresponding to xi and xj, we'll simply have covariance of xi comma xj. Now if you remember, as I mentioned before, adding all the elements of our covariance matrix gives us what we want, right? We simply have to add all the elements, and if we do that, we'll get what we want, which is nothing but variance of x1 plus x2 all the way up to xn. Now what is the notation? For summing all the elements of a matrix? We are adding a bunch of covariance xi, xj's, where I is going from 1 to n. We are summing over I going from 1 to n, right? And similarly, j is also going from 1 to n. We are also summing over j going from 1 to n. The reason that we have two summations over here is because we are summing over both rows and columns. Whenever we are summing all the elements of a matrix, we need to sum both over the rows and the columns, and that is why we have two summations. I going from 1 to n, this one is actually summing over the rows, whereas j going from 1 to n is actually summing over the columns. Okay, so finally we have got what we wanted. And let's just write it out neatly again. So the formula of the variance of x1 plus x2 all the way up to xn is nothing but what? We sum our covariances with I going from 1 to n and j also going from 1 to n. This is our final formula. Great. So now our detour ends. हमारा छोटा सा detour ends now. And this is the formula that we'll be using. So let's scroll back above. Let me just scroll back above. So if you remember, we first established what RP was, right? RP represented the percentage return on a portfolio. And then we wanted to find the expectation of RP and the variance of RP. Expectation to ढूंढ लिया था, but now our focus is on the variance. So let's find this. Let's make some space. Now our focus is on finding the variance of RP. This is nothing but the variance of x1 r1 plus x2 r2 all the way up to xn rn. Now my question is, how can we apply our variance formula over here? The formula that we just looked at, how can we apply it over here? Well, in order to clarify that, I'm just going to say that let's say this x1 r1 is y1. I'm denoting x1 r1 as y1, x2 r2 as y2 all the way up to yn. ऐसे ही हाँ मैंने सिर्फ टाइम पास नोटेशन एस्टैब्लिश किया just to clarify stuff. So based on this new notation, we'll have variance of y1 plus y2 all the way up to yn. And now if you look at this thing is clearly looking at the variance of a sum of n random variables, right? This is the variance of a sum of n random variables. And we know what the formula for this is, right? The formula for this is simply summing our covariances yi yj's, where I is going from 1 to n and j is also going from 1 to n. Now we simply need to resubstitute the values of yi and yj. Yi will be what? It will simply be xi ri, and similarly yj is simply xj rj. So resubstituting those things gives us what? Covariance xi ri comma xj rj, where the sum is going from 1 to n for both indices. Now can we simplify it a little further? If you remember, when we were establishing the notation, I made a point that was ri's are random variables, but on the other hand, our xi's are constants. These are things that I control, right? Now since xi's and xj's are constants, we can simply pull them out of our covariance. So if we do that, what do we get? So xi xj comes out of the covariance, and we are still summing over I going from 1 to n and j going from 1 to n. And this is our formula for the variance of RP. Alright, so essentially we are done over here. Formula तो हम लोग को मिल गया. But just to make our equations look prettier, just to make our equation look nice and pretty, let's say we denote the variance of RP as VP. And we denote the covariance between the returns of assets I and J as Cij. We have just established some basic notation over here. So the variability in the return of our portfolio is VP, whereas the covariance between asset I and J is Cij. So using this new notation, we get VP is equal to what? Xi xj Cij, I going from 1 to n and j also going from 1 to n. And this is what our final formula looks like. So I'll just quickly recap what we did in this video. I'll give you a quick recap. We were essentially looking at notations. We started off with W, which represented our initial wealth. Then we moved on to X1, X2, all the way up to Xn, which represents the proportion invested in each asset. Then we had R1, R2, all the way up to Rn, representing the percentage return on each asset. So using all this information, we were able to find what RP is, the percentage return on a portfolio, which turned out to be simply XIRI, I going from 1 to n. And then for this RP, we found out two things. For this RP, we found out what the mean is, which we denoted with EP, turning out to be XIEI, I going from 1 to n. And we also found out what VP, the variance is, turning out to be XIXJ, CIJ, I going from 1 to n and j going from 1 to n. So this is what we did in this video. Why did we find EP and VP? If you remember, assumption 1 tells us what? That investment decisions are solely based on two things, the expected return and the variance of return. And so that is why these two quantities, EP and VP, are so important to us. Now in the next video, we'll actually be employing assumptions 2 and 3. In other words, in the next video, we'll actually be using these two quantities. We'll use EP and VP to select between portfolios, to choose an optimal portfolio for us. Alright, see you in the next one.